A Day in the Life of Mr. Charlie Cheddar. London, summer, in the late 60s. Today is going to be an important day. So important that I wouldn't be turning up for work, which is quite unusual for me, for I seldom stay away from my monotonous assignments, due, quite frankly, to the financial burden of having chosen to reside in this highly expensive city. My tasks are that of a low-ranking clerk at one of Her Majesty's North London post offices, and surely I will be missed, for I'm a good white-collar worker. At least, that's what my boss, Mr. Armstrong, once or twice implied. It will be quite a busy day, for today is Saturday. Before Big Ben strikes 9, I'll have to summon up the courage to inform Mr. Armstrong, from my landlady's telephone, that I will not be coming in today. The pretext will be an acute stomachache. About my absence, Mr. Armstrong may not be happy, but I should be able to stand my ground, for I believe he holds me in the high esteem, reliable, hard-working, and trustworthy. Mind you, Mr. Armstrong isn't someone easily fooled. It requires a well-performed act of insincerity to mislead him. Mr. Armstrong is very rigid in his demeanours, and is feared by us who work under his command. He's a retired surgeon in Her Majesty's Army, fought in World War II, and is quite proud of his war effort against dem Jerrys. Soon his pension days will be upon him, and much to the delight of most of my colleagues. This early morning of July already shows promising signs of bright weather, and with some hope the day will be a turning point in my life. A certain event, planned to take place later on this supposedly blessed day, is expected to transform my lonely and unhappy life into one that will be cheerful and friendly. Trustingly, it will no longer be an isolated existence, consisting of my mother's letters of spiritual support, supportive of my ups, but mostly downs, in this vast, cold, in every sense, metropolis, following my departure from a tiny Caribbean island 7 years ago. Or, for that matter, my present world, comprising a large quantity of books on almost every subject there is. Instead, that which is scheduled to take place today will help me to enhance my world, one that will be big enough to accommodate a reasonable amount of friends and acquaintances. You must understand, owing to my loss of faith in life, I had gradually, inevitably, embarked upon a small world of my creation. Reading and writing became the centre of my private life. It was due to pain and suffering resulting from inhumane acts administered at the hands of both friends and foes alike during the period that preceded these past 3 years of my thus far 30 years of existence. In other words, I decided to live a life that was distanced spiritually and emotionally from social intercourse as far as it was feasible. In fact, I had given up all my social contacts, with the few friends I ever had, as well as most of my acquaintances in this colossal and unfriendly city. Reluctantly, I held on to a few, the dealings being ordinary and limited, the landlady, Mrs. Bottom, and a couple of odd creatures like myself at work. After a day's work, I went home to cook, and at weekends I would usually visit my favourite Chinese or Indian restaurant in the West End. At home, I would occupy myself with reading or writing verse, or I would simply relax to the sounds of classical music. And whenever I didn't return home straight after work was when I felt the need to visit a cinema, generally Polish or Czechoslovakian, the purpose being intellectual gratification. I'm unable to enjoy much of American films, mostly the old black and whites, of course. American movies are mere entertainment, entirely lacking in the support of one's spiritual development. Indeed, the attitude may well be plain old-fashioned snobbery on my part. However, I must admit that by keeping myself to myself has not always been comforting. At times I seemed to suffer spells of depression and loneliness, longing to become healthy again, of going out and facing a world of injustices, of misery, of widespread indifference.